I've never invented any moves. What I have built is a map of how to view Jiu-Jitsu. I am not necessarily right, everything only represents my point of view. There is an open secret in the Jiu-Jitsu world. We use excessive naming to disguise teaching depth when you simply pull your leg back and perform a Toriando again. A new move called the X-Pass is born. Redundant naming and chaotic definitions needlessly increase our cost of learning. I love Jiu-Jitsu, but I can't accept this chaos. So, I spent several years using topological structures to physically simplify all guard passing techniques. I have refined guard passing paths into 4 major categories: fly, low, outside, and within, corresponding to aerial, ground, frontal, and peripheral paths. The content that follows is definitely not some mystical fantasy. Even a child can understand this. Ultimately, I came to a conclusion. There are only 12 core guard passing movements in Jiu-Jitsu. I won't just teach you how to do them. I will give them definitions so that when you face an opponent, your mind is no longer a list of techniques, but a clear map of paths. This is the Denan passing guard system flow. Why did I choose guard passing as the first system to release? In matches where skills are evenly matched, 80% of the time is spent in the battle between passing and defending. The essence of guard passing is very simple. Pass the knees and control the chest for 3 seconds, the area with the clearest objective, the fewest permutations, and the easiest logic to master. More importantly, if you can see through the key elements of a successful pass, you will naturally become a top-tier defender. This is what Sun Tzu meant by first make yourself unassailable. Only by standing on unassailable ground do you have more space to find opportunities for a sweep. And once the sweep is successful, you return to your most familiar territory. Freely utilizing my system to launch an attack on your opponent, mastering this system will comprehensively elevate your Jiu-Jitsu vision, except for leg locks. I know you must be excited for what's coming next, so let's begin. Outside means passing the guard from the outer perimeter. This path emphasizes angle and speed. Toriando is the most classic outside pass, like a bullfighter dodging horns. I define it as follows. Change the direction of the opponent's legs to create a gap for instantaneous lateral movement and occupy their hip line. Requirement for timing: both legs must be below the opponent's hip line. How to perform a Toriando: control the opponent's legs, usually near the knees. Whether you push them to the side, pull them back, or rotate them, after creating a lateral gap through various means. Press your knee, shoulder, or any part you prefer into a position above the hip line. As long as it fits this definition, it's collectively referred to as a Toriando. Once you understand the definition, you don't need to waste time on 5 variations of Toriando: X-Pass, Bullfighter Pass, Speed Pass. There are too many to name. In many people's eyes, changing a hand grip or stepping at a slightly different angle makes it a new technique. To me, that's just applying different parameters to the same formula and publishing it as a new thesis. If you don't know what to do after the pass, use the underhook and crossface inside control to prevent the opponent from escaping. I just said the criteria for Toriando is both legs being below the hip line. If one leg is already above the hip line, you can use the long step. Long step relies on structure. Therefore, the demand for strength and speed is lower. Definition of long step: one leg has already passed. The step is initiated from that leg to complete the pass for both legs. To understand the criteria, you must first understand when this single leg pass situation occurs. It usually happens when a Toriando isn't fully successful and one leg happens to get stuck inside. It's perfectly suited as a follow-up combo for the Toriando to prevent the opponent from rotating simultaneously during the step. One hand pulls the opponent's neck, while the other pushes their knee. A quick note, you might have heard of a pass called the backstep. By my evaluation standards, that is a terrible pass. I'll make another video to explain why next time. Besides redundant naming, online Jiu-Jitsu also hides moves where the performance value outweighs the practical value. The above are the 2 essential moves for the outside path. Toriando can be used anytime, relying on speed and explosiveness. It's a battle of physical attributes, but when one leg has already completed the pass, there is a better choice. Within represents the internal path. This route emphasizes gravity and structural destruction. There is only one move: knee slide, knee slice. They all refer to the knee cut pass. The definition of a knee cut: slashing the knee diagonally across the opponent's contralateral groin. It emphasizes gravity and speed. The criteria for use requires the knee to be higher than the opponent's hip, gravity to descend like a slide, staying tight to the base of the thigh, drive the knee into the gap of the defensive line. I'll emphasize again, drive forcefully into the gap, not into your opponent. At this point, both hands have their own specific task. The hand on the same side as the driving knee must pull the opponent's torso. This provides the centripetal force needed to turn during our slide, ensuring we don't drift off the passing trajectory. In the opponent's knee shield, the other hand is responsible for clearing obstacles and the movement with a kesagatami or side control. Here is a tip that isn't strictly necessary but significantly increases the success rate. During the collision, pin the opponent's back flat against the floor to prevent them from shrimping on their side. This prevents their outer limbs from forming a defensive frame. Let's explore a small question. Why is knee cut defined as driving the knee specifically into the contralateral? Can we do it on the ipsilateral? The answer is, you can use an ipsilateral knee cut, but it lacks efficiency, although the mechanics can be perfectly replicated. The knee sliding motion also serves the purpose of pinning the opponent's knee. The biggest problem is that with an ipsilateral slide, the knee passes. But as the rest of your body follows, it fails to continue pinning the opponent's leg. The opponent may then use half guard to stop the offensive, unless you use a windshield wiper, or a long step to maintain control until the pass is complete. Fly, as the name suggests, is passing the guard through the air. The aerial fly path is the Hannibal crossing the Alps of Jiu-Jitsu. It ignores the opponent's ground defenses. Direct decapitation from three-dimensional space. In professional competitions, few people use it as a primary move. Taking flight is a gamble between your coordinates and gravity. Once you pull it off, you'll either be the man of the hour or the clown of the day. Cartwheel pass. Flip directly over your opponent like a gymnast. You can end in side control or take the back. The psychological barrier far outweighs the physical one. The question is, do you dare to cartwheel in front of your opponent? The landing point of your supporting hand must at least exceed the knee line. TO cartwheel into a back take. The support point must exceed the opponent's shoulder line. Leapfrog pass. Whether it's vaulting or wall climbing style, the key is maintaining an altitude higher than the opponent's knees. Somersault pass, a forward roll facing the open guard, pin the knees. The opponent expects a Toriando, but use your bridge to break, or you'll sit on their face, flip over, and you'll land in a north-south pin. There are no criteria or restrictions for aerial passes. As long as you aren't caught by your opponent, they can be used at any time. They are high risk, high reward, and high difficulty, but involve zero technical jiu-jitsu. Mastering the 6 techniques of fly, within, and outside, your passing ability would already surpass most people, but what truly elevates passing from technique to art are the 6 techniques of low, fly, within, and outside are about searching for gaps. Low is about tearing through the opponent's defensive line head-on. Its difficulty lies not in speed or surprise, but in that suffocating frontal confrontation. In the low system, we no longer evade the opponent's strength. Instead, we use human leverage to transform your weight into mechanical structure. You will find that mastering the essence of human leverage isn't just for passing. These principles apply to all your pins and escapes as well. The core of low is not passing, it is locking down. Now, let's begin the 6 passes of low. Low is characterized by a low center of gravity, usually with both knees on the ground. Shin staple pass. First, I need to introduce a technique, the shin staple. It is the act of using your shin to pin the opponent's ipsilateral thigh to the ground, rendering them immobile. We usually call this the primary leg. Completing a shin staple means the other leg is left isolated and helpless. We call this the isolated leg. How do we handle the isolated leg? There are 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, the isolated leg is stuck between your legs. Use the shin staple plus a hip sit to flatten both legs laterally, pinning the opponent's back to the floor. With hips turned sideways and chest facing up, their spine is twisted, and their chain of force is broken. In an ideal pass, you go straight to mount for 3+ for points. Scenario 2, the isolated leg is not between your legs but in your passing path. In other words, it is on the same side as the primary leg. Grip the foot and lock it against your waist. The combination of the shin staple and the waist lock forces the opponent's back to be exposed. Ideally, you pass and take the back for 3+ for points. Or play it safe with side control for 3 points. If you are very confident, transition to knee on belly and then to mount for 3+, 2+ for points. Scenario 3. The isolated leg is neither between your legs nor in your path. In other words, it does not interfere with your pass at all. You can simply ignore the isolated leg. Remember the criteria for the long step. A shin staple in this situation perfectly fits the requirement of one leg already passed. Criteria for the shin staple pass. Whenever you can create a primary leg situation using a shin staple, let's brainstorm again. Why is the shin staple defined as pinning with the ipsilateral knee? Can we use the contralateral Structurally, a contralateral shin staple is a knee cut. In a knee cut frame, the user's outer shoulder blocks the opponent's isolated leg. The isolated leg poses no threat, allowing for an immediate pass. So we conclude, the ipsilateral shin staple focuses on structural control against frontal interference. The contralateral shin staple knee cut requires speed to penetrate the line. They simply handle the situation differently. Over-under pass. Controlling the opponent from below the limb is under. From above is over. This movement involves one under and one over to control both knees. The mechanical key is using this structure to pin the hip's mobility with your shoulder. The opponent's upper body tries to turn, but the locked hips cause spinal torsion, making resistance difficult. The criteria for use: one under and one over grip established. Be careful, if you don't pry their legs apart, you will be caught in a triangle choke. Double under. Both hands control the opponent's knee pits, lifting their hips completely off the ground. Then, swing the opponent's hips to the side. Similar to a Toriando pass. He looks simple, but the brilliance of this movement lies in the suspended hips. Once they lose their leverage point, the hips become useless, making effective movement or defense impossible. Emphasize spinal pressure. The entire weight of the opponent's lower body is pinned onto their cervical spine, stripping them of mobility. The difficulty of taking the back is significantly reduced. Berimbolo. The mechanical structure is the same as the double under. Utilize the structure of leg entanglements. As the roll lifts the opponent's hips, you must take the back before their center of mass collapses. To master this technique, you must first grasp the half Granby. No matter what angle you use for the half Granby or how you rotate the opponent, there will always be a phase difference between you and the opponent's back. This part requires manual correction. The degree of manual correction depends on the angle of your roll. The specific way the legs are entangled is not important. Whether the half Granby rolls toward the ipsilateral or contralateral side is also irrelevant. You must remember this sentence, whether you choose the same side or the cross side. The half Granby must be performed while facing your opponent at 90 degrees. Facing the opponent and correcting the half Granby by 90 degrees will give you the back. Facing away from the opponent requires a 270-degree manual correction to take the back. If your opponent is also a berimbolo expert, and you make the mistake of needing a 270-degree correction, while he only needs 90 degrees, he will take your back first. You can see many online jiu-jitsu instructors demonstrating berimbolo back takes from all sorts of strange angles. I can't say they are wrong. But what reason do we have not to learn the shortest path? The perfect berimbolo is a path interception choosing an optimal angle slightly sharper than 90 degrees facing the opponent. You can achieve a hole-in-one back take during the berimbolo process without any manual correction. It is no exaggeration to say that once you master this law, as long as you hook the opponent's knee, you can take the back with your eyes closed. Body lock pass, targeting butterfly-style hooks. The mechanical key lies in encircling the opponent's tailbone with both arms to collapse their space. Pry open the opponent's hip joints, flattening them like a pressed panini, completely locking down the range of motion in the hip joints. Then, using the hip as the center of a circle, rotate to the side to complete the pass using a windshield wiper or other technical refinements. Sao Paulo pass, targeting the closed guard. This involves a mechanical structure that induces spinal torsion. Take a left side breakthrough as an example. The right hand underhooks the opponent's shoulder on the same side, applying pressure to pin it. Simultaneously, use your head to drive their chin to the side, while the left hand pushes the nidus point. Their shoulders face my right, while their hips face my left. The spinal torsion weakens their strength, increasing the likelihood of a successful pass. There are many ways to pass the closed guard. Most involve finding a way to open the guard and returning to open guard before passing, but the Sao Paulo pass is unique. It is the only pass where the setup begins before the closed guard is even opened. It is fundamentally different from any other strategy for handling closed guard. These are the 12 prototype passes of my system. Next, I will add some supplementary tips in my classification. They aren't technically passes, but they are mechanics worth remembering. I mentioned the shin staple earlier. It's a common technique in the low system used primarily to pin a limb. Next, the windshield wiper, a derivative of the shin staple, where the shin and knee swing flexibly like wipers, used for controlling, interfering, or clearing obstacles. Leg pin, pinning the opponent's limbs with your feet, similar to a shin staple, just more aggressive. Tripod, a specific position used against butterfly hooks. just a position, not a pass. Allows you to escape hook control, but it comes with other risks. Headquarters position, pinning one leg while standing. It offers many options to initiate a pass. Floating pass. This isn't a pass. It's more like a state. Like water, feeling the flow of the opponent's force without offering brute resistance, penetrating the pass through the gaps in their strength. Leg weave, a technique structurally similar to the leg drag pass. Personally, I find its practical application quite average, but it is highly effective against the lasso guard, underhook, and crossface combination. Inside control, the outer hand establishes the outer boundary with an underhook. The inner hand uses a crossface to control the opponent's spinal lever. These two hand controls must never be reversed. Turtle guard, the singularity of the passing system. You know what makes it special? Because the turtle guard has no legs to pass, and no chest to pin, so you must choose between taking the back, submitting, or flipping them over. Lockdown, usually used by the person on the bottom in half guard to stall a pass. The legs trap the top player's knee line and ankle. I must say, this is not a good technique. While you can stall the opponent with a lockdown from the bottom, the lockdown also locks you down. Finally, I want to discuss the topology of leg entanglements. Few people talk about this specifically, but I find it quite important. Common entanglements include half guard, 50/50ths, reaping, reverse de la Hiva, single leg X, and various strange leg lock. Entanglements are divided into ipsilaterals and contralateral. The direction of the knee trap can be internal to external or external to internal. This results in four possibilities. Let's discuss the simpler contralateral side first. Contralateral internal to external is the half guard. Though the structure is symmetrical, the top player usually has the positional advantage. Scenario 2. Contralateral external to internal. This is the dreaded 50/50, the position where legs are most easily broken. Perfectly symmetrical structure. Equal advantage. I don't suggest staying here for long. The next two scenarios are more complex. Ipsilateral internal to external. The structure is asymmetrical. The side trapping the knee pit is the reaping structure. The side being trapped has no name. Finally, ipsilateral external to internal, asymmetrical structure. The side trapping the knee pit is the reverse de la Hiva. The trapped side, again, is unnamed. Sounds like the person with their knee trapped in an ipsilateral entanglement is at a disadvantage. That's only half true. Remember the berimbolo I mentioned? Whenever there is a leg entanglement, there is a mutual knee trapping structure. You can berimbolo at any time. Think of it as the emergency exit for all leg entanglement structures. Before the video ends, I want to add an honest footnote. Originally, I thought the long step belonged to the outside path, but as I tried to resolve all gray areas and articulate my system, I underestimated the potential of the long step. It belongs to no specific path. To use an analogy, it is the flying Raijin from Naruto. Once a mark is made, meaning one foot has stepped inside the defensive line. Can teleport straight through the guard. The long step cannot be classified by path. It only has a starting point and an ending point. It is impossible to intercept midway. In calculus terms, it is a discontinuity point, the only point-to-point pass. This means whether you are attempting fly, low, outside, or within. The moment a mark is formed, you can immediately activate the long step teleportation circle. What's even scarier is how easy it is to learn. Interweaving the long step between various pass combinations makes it truly unpredictable. This concludes the Denan passing guard flow system. If you find areas for improvement, please let me know. I'll see you next time.